ICIEF gitu tapi May we have your attention, please? The second day of 7 IIMEFC and 13 ICIEF will begin shortly. Should there be any technical errors during the meeting, this conference will be forwarded to WebEx. Please check the link showed on the screen, also the meeting numbers and password. We will read the housekeeping rules for this conference. Please ensure your electronic device is fully charged. Use earphone for better sound quality. Use the virtual background that has been provided. Please use the chat box appropriately. Please ensure you have stable internet connection. During the event, participants are requested to turn on the camera and turn off the sound. And we will read the health protocol. Keep a distance of at least 1.5 meters from others. Wear a mask. Wash your hand frequently with soap and water. Disinfect your hand regularly. Stay healthy by taking vitamins. Avoid sharing personal belongings. Excellencies, Minister of Finance Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Sri Mulyani Indrawati PhD, Honorables Deputy Governor of Bank Indonesia Bapak Dodi Budiwaluyo, Vice President of International Association for Islamic Economics, Professor Dr. Dato Muhammad Azmi Omar, Chairman of National Research and Innovation Agency, Dr. Laksana Trihandoko, Acting Deputy Bureau of Research and Innovation Application, National Research and Innovation Agency, Dr. Mego Pinandito, Director of Sharia Ecosystem Infrastructure of National Islamic Finance Committee, Dr. Sultan Emir Hidayat MBA, Executive Director of Bank Indonesia Institute, Dr. Solikin M. Juhro, Distinguished Speaker and Moderator, Dr. Irfan Syauqi Bey, Bogor Agricultural University, Profesor Zamir Iqbal, Islamic Development Bank Saudi Arabia, Profesor Muhammad Ma'asum Billah, King Abdul Aziz University, Saudi Arabia, Dr. Jardin Ahusman, Deputy Director of Bank Indonesia, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good morning to all of you. First of all, praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for His grace and mercies, so we can gather at the second day of 7th International Islamic Monetary Economics and Finance Conference and the 13th International Conference on Islamic Economics and Finance today. Second, let us greet and pray to our beloved Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who had brought us to the path of light. This conference provides a great opportunity for prospective participants to enhance their knowledge, research finding, and experience in dealing with Islamic economics and finance. This event will also feature presentations by prominent international speakers with cutting-edge session topic. This year's conference is held online for the second time, as we acknowledge that the global pandemic has become inevitable and the world is going through a challenging moment in many ways. To begin the program, let's start by reciting Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now may we call upon Director of Sharia Ecosystem Infrastructure of National Islamic Finance Committee, Dr. Sultan Emir Hidayat MBA, to deliver the welcoming remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Her Excellency Dr. Sri Mulyani Indrawati, Minister of Finance, the Republic of Indonesia, Secretary of the National Committee of Islamic Economy and Finance, KNIKS, and the Chairperson of Indonesian Association of Islamic Economists, IAEI, the Republic of Indonesia. His Excellency Bapak Dodi Budiwaluyo, Deputy Governor Bank Indonesia, Honorable Chairman of National Research and Innovation Agency, BRIN, the Republic of Indonesia, Dr. Laksana Trihandoko, along with Dr. Mego, Honorable Vice President of the International Association for Islamic Economics, IAIE, Professor Dr. Dato Muhammad Azmi Umar, Honorable Dr. Solihin M. Juhro, Head of Bank Indonesia Institute, distinguished speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, let us praise and thank Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for His grace and mercy so we can gather virtually at this prestigious conference. Peace be upon the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the greatest role model of all time for humankind. Alhamdulillah, today we can attend the second and the final day of the 13th International Conference on Islamic Economics and Finance, ICIEF, and the 7th International Islamic Monetary Economics and Finance Conference, IIMEFC, with the theme Strengthening Islamic Economy and Financial System in the Post-Pandemic Era, Digitalization and Sustainability. This joint conference is one of the important events of the Indonesia Sharia Economic Festival, ICIEF 2021, which is the largest annual platform of Islamic economy in Indonesia and probably one of the biggest events, Islamic economic events in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, nowadays, Islamic economy has attracted the attention of many countries all over the world. This is supported by the trend of the global Muslim population that continues to increase, whereas the world's Muslim population is estimated to reach 26.4% of the world's population, or around 2.2 billion people by 2030. The growing interest in the Islamic economy sector is not just a coincidence, since it is not only creating value for consumers, but also contributing towards global well-being through its underlying socially conscious ethos. The State of Global Islamic Economic Report 2020-21 reports that consumption of halal products and services increases by 5.2% annually during 2019 to 2024, with total consumer spending reached 2.02 trillion US dollar in 2019 and will continue to grow to reach 2.4 trillion US dollar in 2024 across main sectors, namely halal food and beverage, Muslim-friendly tourism, modest fashion, halal pharmaceutical and cosmetics, as well as halal recreation and media. This figure shows that Islamic economy, particularly halal industry, still has great potential and opportunity to grow in the near future. Meanwhile, the Islamic financial industry has also been growing at a modest pace over the past few years and during pre-COVID-19 era. The sector recorded double-digit growth globally across its segments. It is projected that Islamic finance will grow at a 5% compound annual growth rate CAGR from 2019 to reach 3.69 trillion US dollar by 2024. Total global Islamic financial assets grew by 13.9% in 2019 to reach 2.88 trillion US dollar, fueled by higher sukuk issuances. The sukuk market, comprising 19% of total global Islamic financial assets, grew by 15% during the year and surged by 18.32% in terms of issuance value. The emergence of new avenues, such as green sukuk and socially responsible investing, are likely to drive growth as higher attractiveness of the issuances lead to more issuances. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic has been affecting the global economy since 2020 with a series of stimulus, economic aid packages, and other policy responses implemented by governments to combat the spread of the disease and survive the recession. The unprecedented event served as a momentum to rethink about the economic system that is stable, resilient, inclusive, and sustainable, along with strong social safety net system. Rapid digital transformation, supported by the rise of the sharing and collaborative economy, has also contributed to a more effective and efficient resource allocation. This development has shaped a new normal for the global Islamic economy, which requires breakthrough initiative and innovation to strengthen the ecosystem of the Islamic economy that synergize Islamic commercial finance, Islamic social finance, halal industry, and Islamic businesses in order to achieve inclusive, resilient, and sustainable growth. Despite the hindrance caused by COVID-19, last year, we still saw many notable developments in the global Islamic economy, led by an acceleration in digital transformation, disruption in global supply chains, and increased government focus on food security-related investment. The global Islamic economy continues to be underpinned by some key drivers, such as a large and growing Muslim population, and increasing adherence to Islamic ethical values impacting consumption, and a growing number of national strategies dedicated to halal products and services development. Ladies and gentlemen, during the last decade, the development of Islamic finance has been dominated by the expansion and growth of the industry and the creation of Islamic banking institutions all around the globe. The industry has turned 59 years old in 2021. Since the first experiments of ribawi-free financial institutions that appeared in 1960s, namely Saving Investment Bank in Midgamar, Egypt, and Tabung Haji in Malaysia. The need to search for an alternative approach on economic issues that is based on Islamic principles and values has emerged around the year 1950s as part of what has been called as the Islamic revival. Afterwards, modern Islamic economics founded its grounds and as a discipline around 1970s. The first international conference on Islamic economics was organized in 1976 in Makkah, Saudi Arabia by King Abdulaziz University, which is considered as a benchmark that symbolized the starting point of Islamic economics as a modern paradigm of economic system. Now, Alhamdulillah, we are holding the 13th series of this prestigious conference. After almost half a century of history, the discipline has evolved, consolidated, and generated multiple schools of thought. The theoretical paradigm has been translated into the expansion of the industry as the implementation of Islamic finance principle. In case when the practices depart from its theoretical foundation, then certain gaps and pitfalls will be observed and addressed in the development of the discipline, which in turn could respond or accompany those dynamics and outcomes in the more practical scope. Ladies and gentlemen, Alhamdulillah, National Committee for Islamic Economy and Finance, IIMEFC, along with Bank Indonesia, IPB University, the International Association for Islamic Economics, IAIE, the National Zakah Board, BASNAS, the ISDB Institute, and Indonesian Association of Islamic Economists, IAEI, have an opportunity to hold the 13th International Conference on Islamic Economics and Finance and the 7th International Islamic Monetary Economics and Finance Conference. The themes of the conference are strongly aligned with the mega trend of key developments and challenges around the world, which include new normal, digital transformation and Islamic economy, halal economy for organic growth towards global value chain, Islamic social finance and innovation for productive economy and poverty alleviation, Islamic financial development and breakthrough innovation, risk-sharing economy for stability and resiliency, Islamic entrepreneurship, MSMEs and startup in smart economy, Islamic economy and sustainability, green economy, circular economy, business and clean technologies, institution and Islamic economy, as well as global talent development for the digital age in multi-sectors of Islamic economy. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the executive management of KNEKS and other co-organizers, I would like to thank all the prominent speakers and all parties who have supported us in organizing this international conference. We believe that the presence of world-renowned scholars and experts in the Islamic economic fields at this conference is very much invaluable, particularly in addressing the recent issues within Islamic economic framework. I do really hope this conference will develop new knowledge and promote innovation in optimizing the role of Islamic economy and finance to effectively contribute to resiliency, sustainability, and inclusivity in the global market. Furthermore, I encourage all stakeholders to implement Islamic economic principles and collaborate with Indonesia to optimize the role of Islamic economy and finance in the global economy. Finally, I do hope all of you will have productive dialogue and fruitful discussion during the second day of this conference. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Doctor, for the welcoming remarks. Esteemed guests, we are now going to listen to the keynote speech by Chairman of National Research and Innovation Agency, Dr. Laksana Trihandoko, represented by Acting Deputy Bureau of Research and Innovation Application, Dr. Mego Pinandito.
Thank you for this opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to send gratitude for this organizing committee, the chairman of International Committee of Economic and Finance Conference, and also with the local organizing committee chairs who are giving the opportunities. On behalf of the National Agency or National Research and Innovation Agency, the Republic of Indonesia, first, I would like to deliver my deepest gratitude for the 7th International Islamic Monetary Economic and Finance Conference, and also the International Conference on Islamic and Finance 2021. In this situation, it is still in the time of the pandemic, so that almost the conference are also doing in the virtual. Here, I would like to convey the information about our institution, BRIN, as the one of the new governmental institution with the strategy and also the direction and some targets as coming years. As we know that the BRIN, the National Research and Innovation Agency, is the governmental institution directly under the President of the Republic of Indonesia, which has mandate to conduct the integrated research and development, assessment and application, as well as the inventions and innovations. I would like to ask for this permission to share screen, if possible. Is it already display well? Okay. Hopefully it can be seen well. It's okay. And regarding to these activities, our institute try to make sure that all of these activities are already consolidating as the national science and technology resources, that is including the human resources, research and development infrastructure regarding to these activities, of course, the programs, especially how the funding or the budget will come. And the secondly is to create the open global standard research and economic in the ecosystem, which is collaborative but inclusive. So everybody can also use that platform, as we know that somehow it is need to be maintained well. And of course, to creating the strong and excellent research ecosystem to support the national economic growth and also based on the sustainable development. I think this is also the important thing, that sustainable developments are the base on all what we like to do in the research and innovations. And some target that will be setting is how to make sure that to accelerate we know that research and innovation need such kind of the critical mass, so it will become enabled to transform into the business process and also the research management, and focusing on the research, especially to accelerate to get the added value economy based on the natural resources and biodiversity, geographically also the art and cultural diversity. So it means that almost if you look at the biodiversity we have in land and also in ocean. Now still almost the research and innovation activity on the biodiversity are focusing on the land. So the National Research and Innovation Agency, BRIN, set some program to get more and more possibility to do research and innovation in the sea, in the oceans, because we know that if you look at the activities on the sustainable developments, we cannot exploit almost all of the materials coming from the land, but also we have tried to use every what we call the materials in the sea or in the oceans, and reshaping the Indonesia as the global excellent research center and platform for the conducting this biodiversity, geographic, and also art cultural research, make it more and more to adopt and also to make some engagement even with the domestic institution, also with the international or overseas institutions. So this is what we call the global collaboration. If we look at the right one, is we are doing with the universities, the academic, and also the research institute. We have such kind of the capacity building on the PhD by research program and also postdoctoral. And the other thing is about the mobility program. The opposite one, the left hand, is supported and also offering to the business players, to the industries. For example, to use our facilities that already been proven scientifically, and also to comply with the regulation and standard. So in the case of this collaboration on the industry problem resolves are also very important. And also, if we look at the investment of the risk on the research and innovation, it is very opportunity to or reducing the investment by the industry. So I think this is one important thing that we try to improve the research and innovation ecosystem, especially when doing the activity in business. And of course, the creating of this research institution, improving the economic impact of the research activity established as the science and technology platform, are promising in the investment of the potential national and the international partners. For example, if you look at the future research which the brain set in the priority is regarding to the, for example, the digital and blue-green economic research and innovations, as I described before, is doing with the biodiversity research and its added value development, the drug and also medicine and medical devices development. And the other thing is, we know that the space technology, the technology for disaster management and mitigation, and of course, we don't, it is not possible to you, the social humaniora and archaeology are also very important. In the case of this future research and innovation, we need such kind of the very important parts or factor is the high performance computing, artificial intelligence, and also digital world, digital IT, and with the biodiversity and database in finally as the big data, even with the drug and medical devices and also precision technology. So for supporting this activity to be in the research is the research results in the good quality with the quality assurance and performance. So we need such kind of, for example, the national or the global standard regulation that all of the activities should be complied, and also with the measurement and the measuring standard that should be maintained. And of course, the certified reference material conformity assessment infrastructure and quality assurance management system, again, should be supported by the science, technology, and innovation. In the case of this, so again, we will try to make, for example, the international or global class of the laboratories, for example, for the biology, biochemical, and also biochemical environment laboratories, we setting such kind of the research vessels with the several vessels for the deep sea research capacity, and of course with the aerospace technology launch and botanical garden for the plant conservation. Since if you look at the biodiversity research and value-added component, it should be what we call the activities to maintain all of the plant, or we call the plant conservation. This is just the open research infrastructure for national international standard. There is one is in the Cibinong, called the Cibinong Science and Techno Park, with the integrated modern technology laboratories. We are also doing the Center of Biodiversity, traditional food and processing, and of course with the halal standard. So it is very important to us to make sure that all of the food are already being guaranteed as the standard food. And of course with the national integrated for the genomics, tropical biodiversity and environment. And of course this is just to show what we've been built in the infrastructure for research for the halal food. We know that such research are with the halal requirement, and the laboratory are also specifically set and with the appropriate technology for the halal laboratories, and finally to have such kind of industrial halal product in the future. So in the beginning, it is still in the micro or the small medium enterprise, and hopefully bring and with such kind of the institution and with doing together with the group of society, it become more prepared and ready to be what we call the UMKM Go International. Under this circumstance, the new one, we try to again to improve and strengthening the international collaboration. So this is what we call for example, for the ocean research innovation, we have a program of ocean research, the extreme ecosystem research on the deep sea, the geobiodiversity of the submarine volcanoes, we call the Eco Depot, which has consists of 6 components. First is the research cruise or vessels. The second one is for the geology and geophysics activities, research, oceanography, biodiversity, biotechnology, and the instrumentation and engineering. Since we know that with this research vessels, it is become very important to know what kind of the biota or how to take the samples for the geological on the bottom of the sea and so on. Of course, regarding to the data processing and analysis, it become very big data. So the maintain of the big data and also the information in secure method are very important to do. And again, ladies and gentlemen, in the global science, technology, and innovation, it plays an important role in the development of the new product, of the new thinking regarding to the science and technology. Somehow it is linked to what we have has in Indonesia. For example, in the ocean research. The other thing is, if you look at the research and innovation in medical and health, several activities, for example, in the protection, in the screening and diagnostics, the treatment, medical devices, and also research on the human social humaniora, it is very important, since we know that several understanding regarding to for example, the COVID-19 is differ between others. And finally, we know that such kind of the understandings are also very important to be set as priority in how to announce or how to make the information appropriate to the society. The other things, if you look at in the future in medical and health, the medical and also the therapy, we know that the almost of the activities are including in the what we call the biomolecular or the biotechnology. So, for example, the using of the whole genome sequencing in personal medical data is very important. We know that such kind of the medicines are specifically or privately, individually set by such kind of the research. So I think in the future, the modern medical therapy and also medicines are really need research and innovation on the big data, and it is already known that if you look at the personal medical data, the information security are very, very important. I think this is just the only information that if you look at the how to make sure that the what you call to make the sustainable development in the research and how to the economic finally can be gained. It will be very important to do the research and innovation in the appropriate way. I think that is what we'd like to share in this opportunity. And again, thank you very much. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Doctor. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to listen to keynote speech by Vice President of International Association for Islamic Economics, Professor Dr. Dato Muhammad Asmi Omar.
Thank you very much, the Sister Moderator. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Her Excellency Ibu Sri Mulyani, Minister of Finance Indonesia, as well as Chairman of Indonesian Association of Islamic Economics, His Excellency, senior officials from the various government agencies, including from KNEKS, as well as Dr. Mego from BRIN, distinguished speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and good morning to all of you. On behalf of the International Association of Islamic Economics, I would like to extend my appreciation to the organizers for inviting me to deliver a keynote address at the second day of the 13th International Conference on Islamic Economics and Finance, as well as the 7th International Islamic Monetary Finance Conference. I am indeed honored and delighted to see so many distinguished speakers at this prestigious conference. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the Standard & Poor global ratings, the global Islamic finance industry, which now stand at about 2.2 trillion US dollars, is expected to recover from a 10.6% growth rate in 2020. And it is expected to grow in the range of 10 to 12% over the 2021 to 2022 period. This is a slight increase or a recovery if we compare to the 2019 growth rate, which stood at 17.3%. This optimistic view of Islamic finance growth is predicated on the basis of a modest economic recovery in the main Islamic finance markets such as GCC countries and South and Southeast Asian countries. Hence, we expect to see increasing sukuk issuance by sovereigns as well as multilaterals, together with an increase in bank financings in a number of growth sectors. S&P also forecasts global sukuk issuance to reach $140 billion to $155 billion in 2021, roughly an increase from $140 billion in 2020. And this increase is largely due to the increase in availability of liquidity, as well as sustained financing needs among corporates as well as governments. Now we see more countries have opened up the economies by reducing COVID-19 restrictions and opening up their borders, as we see increasing vaccination rates in many countries. Hence, we are quite optimistic that Islamic finance growth will continue and possibly reach almost $3.3 trillion by 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, if we look deeper into the reasons for the continued growth of Islamic finance, also to a certain extent mentioned by earlier speakers, we can identify at least 4 factors. The first one is demographics of Muslim population. The global Muslim population has an average age of 24 years old. Indeed, very young. Most of them are religiously inclined and are looking to adopt Islamic financial solutions. In addition, Muslims as a group have a higher growth rate and are expected to comprise 26.4% of the global population by 2030. Indonesia and Pakistan, the 2 OIC countries with the largest Muslim population today, will have a population grown to 238 million and 258 million respectively by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, the second factor for the continued demand for Islamic finance is financial inclusion agenda. And as we know, this is part of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and this is actively implemented in many OIC countries. Financial inclusion is measured by the access to financial services by all sectors of society at an affordable cost. Financial services encompass bank accounts, affordable credit, insurance, payments, and trade transactions. According to the Global Findex Report 2017, and again, this is still the most recent report, high-income economies have a considerably higher bank account ownership at 94%. In contrast, in developing countries, where most of the OIC countries are located, it stood at 37%. So if you do a thorough analysis, you will find that a significant percentage of the world's unbanked population is located in OIC countries. The third factor, ladies and gentlemen, is the halal economy. Many OIC countries are promoting halal economy as a new source of growth. They have developed many types of trade facilitation initiatives to support the growth of micro and SMEs for domestic and international halal trade. In parallel to this, the emphasis to have an end-to-end value chain for halal trade to include the source and availability of Sharia-compliant financing to support the micro and SMEs is another pivotal support to Islamic finance. The fourth final factor is the demand for ethical or sustainable finance. Islamic finance is part of the ethical sustainable finance. As Islamic finance is not involved in any gambling activities, excessive speculative activities, Islamic finance provides a strong link to the real economy and promotes a risk-sharing economy. As the world gets more increasingly affected by climate change, increasing poverty, and inequality in both income and wealth, there are opportunities for Islamic finance to provide the solution. Already, we are seeing Islamic finance institutions in countries such as Malaysia implementing value-based intermediation and value-based takaful, incorporating sustainability agenda in their decision-making. We also see similar initiatives in other countries, such as here in Indonesia, under the sustainability finance agenda. All of this agenda, ladies and gentlemen, are based on Maqasid al-Sharia, i.e. meeting the objectives of Sharia. Ladies and gentlemen, in my mind, there are 3 pillars of sustainable finance that Islamic financial institutions should incorporate in their financing, investment, and takaful business. The first pillar is economic prosperity, where Islamic financial institutions should look beyond profit and consider returns from all stakeholders rather than for shareholders only. profit should not be the only yardstick for success. The second pillar is people stewardship. Islamic financial institutions must incorporate social variables dealing with community, education, equity, social resources, health, well-being, and quality of life in their decision-making, which means that any decision-making impacting the community, impacting the health and the well-being of the community, the society, must be incorporated in Islamic financial institutions' decision-making. The third pillar, ladies and gentlemen, is environmental stewardship. Islamic financial institutions must consider the impact of their financing, their investment, and takaful decisions on environmental issues relating to natural resources, water, sanitation, and air quality, energy conservation, and land use. No longer should Islamic finance be looking only, as I mentioned earlier on, from the profit perspective. All three pillars must be incorporated in their decision-making. Implementing sustainability agenda matters most to Islamic finance. It is not now a matter of choice. It is now not a matter of choice, but something that Islamic finance institutions must embrace and implement. I can mention at least 4 reasons for this. Next slide, please. The first one is Islamic ethical principles are inbuilt into the DNA of Islamic finance. As I mentioned, why sustainability matters for Islamic finance. The first one is Islamic ethical principles are inbuilt into the DNA of Islamic finance. Second one is Islamic finance is inherently tied to the real economy. Third, fulfilling the objectives of Sharia, Maqasid Sharia, should be the basis of Islamic finance and Islamic economic system. Moving beyond Sharia compliance to fulfilling the objectives of Sharia, we should be focusing on halal and tayyibat rather than purely on halal, but focusing on goodness, wholesome, which is good for the whole community, for the whole society, as well as for the whole country. I would like to quote a statement by the former governor of Bank Negara Malaysia, Tan Sri Muhammad Ibrahim, in 2017, which he said, the next frontier and the major milestone would be positioning Islamic finance to become more prominent and leading agent of positive change for the financial system and operates within a network economy that is built upon shared values of integrity, inclusivity, and sustainability. Greater attention will be devoted to value creation and value-based businesses that reflect the true essence of Islamic finance. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the interesting developments we see today due to COVID-19 is the increase in digitalization. And along with this development is the expansion of Islamic fintech. And Indonesia is at the center of Islamic fintech growth. Islamic fintech are offered in many verticals from payment, digital banking, crowdfunding, equity, as well as debt murabah-based financing for trade and working capital, takaful tech, Islamic social finance fintechs such as for zakat, sadaqah, and wakaf, and also robo-advisory for investments, to name a few. We have also seen several Islamic fintechs supporting the financing and investment of micro and small and medium enterprises. However, the key to ensure the success of Islamic fintechs rests on several things. These are, next slide please, having the right regulatory and supervisory framework and policies. Secondly, the existence of supporting institutions such as accelerators and digital labs. Third, the availability of funding and different types of funding for different stages of startups. And finally, of course, human capital and talent development to support the growth of fintechs. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, Islamic Sharia or Sharia finance, as it's called in some other countries, is growing and will continue to grow in the near future due to the above demands, which I mentioned earlier. Islamic fintechs will be a key enabler to increase the size and growth of Islamic finance in years to come, not only in OIC countries, but also in countries where there are significant Muslim population, such as in Europe. Islamic finance must embrace sustainability agenda as we have to move beyond Sharia compliance to meeting the objectives of Sharia. Together, digitalization, especially Islamic fintech, and a focus on sustainability will help to steer Islamic finance as an important contributor to strengthening Islamic economy and financial system in the post-pandemic era. Thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. I end with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, may we have the honor to invite Her Excellencies, Minister of Finance Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Sri Mulyani Indrawati, PhD, to deliver the keynote speech.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all of you, especially the Honorable Vice President of International Association for Islamic Economics, Professor Dr. Dato Muhammad Asmi Omar, my colleague from the BRIN as well as from IIEE. First of all, we are all should be very thankful with the blessing of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala that we are all today have this conference, international conference, and we would like to also express my appreciation to KNEKS, Bank Indonesia, Basnas, and IIEE, as well as International Association for Islamic Economics for conducting this event. The topic of our today's discussion is very timely, that is the strengthening Islamic economy and financial system in the post-pandemic era, and also digitalization as well as sustainability. These are all the three very critical and important, which is disrupting globally, that is pandemic, digital technology, and sustainability, which lead to the climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, currently we are still facing with the first issue, that is the pandemic era, in which globally the world is still struggling to deal with the development of the new variant. In 2020, all countries in the world have to do or to adopt an extraordinary policy in order for each country and economy to be able to deal with this pandemic COVID-19, whether this is on a health area as well as social support, and also in supporting business community. Total global fiscal stimulus in 2020 estimated by all countries in the world reached $12 trillion. This is not only in dealing with the health, but also the consequences on the social and economic implication of this COVID. So COVID and pandemic has definitely creating a huge cost for all countries in the world. Alhamdulillah, globally now, economy is starting to recover, although this is still uneven. Many countries which still struggle with dealing with the new variant, and also the access of vaccine, which is not distributed fairly across country as well as economy. In addition to the pandemic, which is already costing a lot and have a huge implication for all the multidimensional, which I mentioned earlier, we're also dealing with the climate change challenge. And these are all also the nature of the problem is borderless, meaning that no country can deal with this issue alone. And that's why this is maybe one of the most challenging for global economy to deal the situation or challenge or threat in this case, which have no jurisdiction in terms of their implication. At the same time, we also see digital technology shaping as well as disrupting the real economy as well as financial economy. So how we are going to address these three very critical issues? During the annual meeting IMF World Bank last week, these three topics has become the most important topic, which is being discussed in this meeting, but also during the G20 Finance and Central Bank meeting. Indonesia is going to hold the presidency of G20 beginning this December and for the whole 2022. Our theme in this presidency is how globally the world can recover together and recover stronger. It's a very high call and very ambitious, but certainly it will require a lot of coordination, cooperation, and synergy and harmony in terms of how we are going to design the policy and at the same time navigating the continued challenging environment. Let me provide you with a little bit update on our economic situation. Alhamdulillah, Indonesian economy is already now also showing the sign of recovery. This is mainly because the ability to manage the trend of increasing COVID-19 due to the Delta variant in a very effective and relatively short time. Indonesia can witness now the normalization of the activity, especially starting late August and continue in September. Our second quarter this year, 2021, economic growth has been very quite impressive, above 7%, and our GDP level is already surpassing the pre-COVID level. So these are all the recovery process, which is driven by all sorts of growth, consumption, investment, government spending, as well as external forces like export, creating a much more balanced growth. It doesn't mean that Indonesia economy, in this case, not suffering of what we call it the scar effect, just like many countries and many economy in the world. And this is exactly how we are going to continue making sure that the policy is going to address the issue of health challenge, which is still continue, remain very challenging. Indonesia still have to strive for what you call it immunization for this vaccine of COVID-19. The president have the target that the Indonesia should reach 70% to achieve herd immunity before the end of the year. That means that we have to vaccinate around 2.5 million people per day. It's a very big number, and of course also challenging given the geographic situation in Indonesia. But this is the challenge that Indonesia is going to continue match with the effort from both central government and local government. Vaccination is the necessary condition for the recovery. But the second one, which is critically also important, is continue adopting health protocol in order for us to be able to start the economic activity, social activity, including the religious activity, but without creating increasing risk of contagion of this COVID-19. So with this kind of situation, the question is how a country like Indonesia can design the recovery economy, which is at the same time also recognizing the three area of topic which we discussed today. That is the threat of the pandemic itself. The second one is the digital technology. And the third one is the sustainability. And within our discussion today, we also want to make sure that the objective of Sharia, that is Maqasid Sharia, which is the universal value of Islam in the practice of the economy, can also strengthening the effort of the recovery. The policy that we design is definitely reflecting this objective of Sharia, which is what we call it a just or equitable society. How we are going to correct, in this case, any distortion that creating inequality or unjust society. The role of state budget is very critical. Let us see how we are designing the state budget, which is promoting more and more equality. First, fulfilling sufficient basic human needs. This is very critical. This is aligned well with the priority that President Jokowi outlined, that is human capital is very critical. This is already mentioned by previous speaker that within Islamic fintech as well as Maqasid, the role of human capital is very critical. So Indonesia dedicate a significant amount of our budget spending for human capital, whether this is in the form of education spending, health spending, and social safety net. Health spending is now reaching more than 6%. Education spending, by our constitution, we have to allocate 20% of our budget, and social safety net, which including also subsidy for the poorest family. This is how the Indonesia tried to cut what we call it poverty among generation or across generation, intergenerational poverty that need to be stopped, among other, by using our budget and intervention of the government, making sure that whoever the population in Indonesia, no one left behind, they are going to be able to get a good health as well as education services. The second one on this Maqasid is about the distribution of property, wealth, and income. The government is also providing, in addition to the cash transfer or social spending, to support the poorest family, the most vulnerable. But at the same time, we also implement tax system, including the income tax system, which is progressive, meaning that for those who has more ability, they will pay more. And the collection of this tax is for supporting the poor, and also building the basic infrastructure, which is going to be also very useful, especially for the poor family to be able to get a job and have the productivity. So taxation is actually reflecting what we call it, the principle of equality. The design of taxation in order for us to be able to address the issue of equality is very critical. The third principle is equal right and opportunity in doing business. This is democratization of business opportunity. Again, based on the value of Islam, in which you are providing adil, that is equal opportunity, and at the same time, less distortion, providing equal opportunity for all to be able to thrive. But of course, equal opportunity cannot reflect it to this, what we call it, keadilan, or a just society, if the poor family, again, cannot have the same starting point. That's why, again, within the policy of the government in addressing the equality and creating a just society, even though you create an equal opportunity, doesn't guarantee that you are going to achieve the same result, especially when the poor family and poor kids cannot get the same starting point. So these are all maybe can be seen as the regular fiscal policy, but actually reflecting the value of Islam. This is actually the exercising or implementing the principle of the Islam within the design of how we are going to address the issue of not only pandemic, but also in addressing the issue of poverty and creating a more equality and just society. So ladies and gentlemen, now let me address the issue on how Islamic economic finance, and especially during this pandemic, which is showing as a resilient. I think the previous speaker from the first one and then the previous one has already mentioned about the economic and finance, which is based on Islam, is showing a resiliency during this pandemic. Bank Indonesia noted that the growth of the main halal value chains, especially in agriculture and food, remain positive and also above the average GDP growth. Other sector, particularly tourism, experiencing a deep contraction during this pandemic. The sector growth, which is showing a very strong, of course, opportunity during this pandemic, is the e-commerce on halal product. Islamic finance industry sector and Islamic banking financing distribution is relatively also showing a stable growth during this pandemic. This is supported by low level of non-performing finance or NPL, as well as relatively stable value of asset and third-party funds, as well as capital adequacy ratio. In addition, the fundamental of Islamic capital market and Islamic non-bank financial industry also still relatively well maintained. The global Islamic capital market, in this case, Indonesia, is among the main contributor of the global Islamic capital market. And we are all see the increasing both in terms of volume of the transaction as well as instrument which is being traded. The issuance of sukuk by Indonesian sovereign is actually one of the biggest landmark at the international market since 2018 until 2021. We issued 3.5 billion, which is actually also quite remarkable given the fact that in 2020, the situation at the global capital market is not really suitable and favorable, but yet Indonesia was still continue able to issue this kind of sukuk with a quite competitive yield. Internationally, the global issuance of 23.65 billion, in which 23.1% is actually a share from the Indonesia, which is actually very significant. In June 2021, just recently, we also issue sovereign green sukuk on the global market at 750 million US dollar. Again, we are using quite an opportunistic situation in which low interest rate, in this case, equal interest rate, is actually providing us with the opportunity to issue the instrument which is based on Sharia. Ladies and gentlemen, how we are going to see post-pandemic in terms of the growth of the economy or the recovery of economy, as well as the development of Islamic economy and finance. Currently, Islamic economy has become a new attraction in the global economy. I think previous speaker has already mentioning at least 4 factors which I support and agree fully. That is the demographic, in this case, of the global Muslim population, which is relatively also young and also still growing as one of the most important factors. The second one is the digital technology. The third one is the growing halal industry as the source of growth. And the fourth one is the sustainable concern, which I think match very much with the value of the Islam. We are all see today that this 4 factor is becoming one of the most important fundamental for the economy, which is based on Islam, can be growing. But the question, of course, for all of us to be able to first making sure that it can fit and creating a solution by innovating the instrument for all parties to be able to then use this, what we call it, Sharia compliant instrument as a solution on the financing, as well as the addressing the issue which is structurally and fundamentally important, whether this is related to the SDG or poverty, whether this is related to the innovation. I think this is going to be very critical. So I also agree with the previous speaker that this is supposed to be beyond Sharia compliant. It's supposed to be focused on the Sharia objective. That is the objective to create a just and prosper population or society. So for Indonesia, Islamic banking also playing a very important, which is for us, this is the first is a commercial Islamic institution which play still the dominant as well as the important institutional as well as financial sector in Indonesia. Even with that kind of recognition, the share of Islamic banking in Indonesia is still relatively small, which is 6.5%. Currently, the government is already also merged 3 Islamic banking owned by the government in order to create an economic of scale. But certainly this still need to be supported by quality of professional, competent human capital, as well as the ability to expand by looking at the opportunity of the new source of growth, including the halal industries. The second one is on the digital technology, which is also previously has been mentioned by previous speaker. We have all seen during this pandemic, the transformation toward digital technology is more accelerated. Digital technology is already providing disruption, but also opportunity. So for all of us to actually taken this digital technology as one of the instruments in order for us to be able to implement Islamic value is very, very important. Because if we are not really looking at the very detailed digital technology, including digital finance, can create exploitation. In Indonesia, I think we are all now see the example, which is not a good example, like pinjaman online, in which people suffer from this kind of practice. So for all of us, how we are going to use this digital technology, including fintech, to create and to implement more what we call it a regulatory framework, which reflecting a just as well as non-exploitative financial practices. Within that context, I think this is going to be one of the challenges for the Economic Association of the Islamic Economic Association to think very hard how we are going to be able to first designing the regulatory framework. The second one, designing the institution, the institution which is implementing this regulatory and policy framework, the institution which is credible enough. The third one, what kind of instrument which can use this digital fintech as a way to create more financial inclusion in a safe and just way, rather than exploitative for those which is less literate on the financial side. This is going to be one of the most important because more and more people now using and relying on digital technology in their daily life. On this Islamic finance, I think we also can use digital technology in order for us to be able to promote many of what we call it social finance. This is including how we are going to create and promote BMT, that is Baitul Mal wal Tamwil, or Islamic cooperative globally. Digital technology definitely will provide this platform with a much less cost and a much higher efficiency. Currently in Indonesia, there are 4,500 BMT that help society, particularly in the rural area, in accessing microfinance. I think with this kind of principle, we should look more the underlying principle in order for us to be able to create more access of finance, especially for poor family, as well as the smallest unit, or we call it microfinance. We also see the BMT in this case can play a very important role in order for us to be able to provide alternative source of capital and also creating resiliency, especially during this pandemic, in which many of small medium enterprises suffer directly because of pandemic, which restriction of the movement of the people, definitely creating a huge handicap for many small medium enterprises to continue their business. So digital platform definitely provide, in this case, a solution, but how we are going to use this platform, which is still consistent with the Islamic value. We also see in this case, the digital technology can also promote, as I mentioned earlier, the social finance. Social finance such as zakat, infak, and sodako will also can be promoted by using digital platform. In 2020, our zakat, infak, and sadaqah collection is 12.7 trillion rupiah. This is increased from 17.3 trillion in 2021. The collection in Indonesia increased by 30% if you compare with 2019. So with this kind of situation, we actually see the opportunity how the digital technology can provide the easy way for people to exercise their social and altruist behavior by also using this digital technology in order for them to be able to pay zakat, infak, and sodako. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to provide you with my closing that all this, the digital technology can only creating what you call it, an opportunity for all population in Indonesia if we have the infrastructure, digital infrastructure, which is allowing, especially for the population in a remote and poorest area, to be able to also enjoying the internet connection and digital technology. And that's why for Indonesia, even though maybe this is not being seen as a direct Islamic program, but the government spending on the digital infrastructure, basically creating a widespread and equal opportunity, especially for our population, which is still live in the outer and remote and poor region. This is again is very consistent with the Islamic value, in which we are supposed to provide support for those needed. And for those of you who has the capacity, you have to also providing your ability to help the poorest in order for us to be able to create a just society. So with this kind of situation, I think I would like to close by saying that for all of us to be able to promote the Islamic finance in an inclusive way, we are not only limited ourselves to only what we call it, as mentioned by previous speaker, Sharia compliant in a very narrow way. We also have to be able to translate the Islamic value in an inclusive, which can also influencing and shaping policy at the macro level, which have a huge and significant impact for the population, especially in striving against poverty and creating equal prosperity. This is going to be one of the most important for the Islamic economy to also discuss. So I would like to close by saying that all the effort made by all of us, the stakeholder, in order to promote Islamic value, which is going to be complementing for the focus on a very narrow Sharia compliant, but also complemented by a good sound macro policy, which also designing in a way that can create more equitable and just society, will be strengthening the Islamic value indirectly. So with that, I would like to congratulate all the organizers for having this conference, and I do hope that all of you to have a very productive discussion. Billahi taufik wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Minister of Finance, Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Sri Mulyani Indrawati, PhD, for their keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite you all to join virtual group photos. Group photos will be taken twice. Please be ready. First photo will be taken in 1, 2, 3. Second photo in 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin to our main agenda today, the plenary session on Islamic banking and finance for economic recovery and sustainable development in digital era, we would like to invite you to join the parallel sessions. Please check the links on the screen. We hope to see you again on 3 p.m. Jakarta time with the same Zoom link for the plenary sessions and announcement of Best Paper GMF 2021. Thank you.